Hey, we're recording.
We're recording.
Yeah,
We're there.
finally, even though it's 20 minutes late, we are actually speaking. And thanks for doing this with me. I'm really, really grateful.
Hopefully we can do something useful this evening.
Yeah.
Now we're finally on.
Just for everyone to know, we sort of had a little bit of trouble with Facebook Lives. We managed to start one each, but not to invite each other. So if anyone knows how to do that, we'll have to get on to Graham, I think, Todd. So we thought it'd be easy, didn't we? But there we are. Time will tell. So
I think it's one of these things that, as everything with technology, it's easy when you know how.
Yeah, exactly. So you're my first person that I've had on a Facebook Live or attempted to, so it's now on a Zoom, and it's really great. I'm just remembering when we first met, we met in Tamworth, didn't we, in the 4N,
Yep.
when I was on my tour, doing my Bag Lady tour. I don't think you've actually seen my Bag Lady tour, but it's it was good. It's really nice to meet you. So I thought today we'd talk about work-life balance, and I know I've got some fairly strong views on it, and also I have some views from an NLP perspective about why people might get a work-life balance that doesn't work for them. And I know that you have also got some strong views. You talk about it on TV and radio, and you've suffered from, well, I'll let you tell the story, but your work-life balance hasn't done you any favors at times, has it? So perhaps we'll just start with your story.
My story, you can go back as long as you like, to be honest. But I think it's probably best to go back to 1992 when I started working on the sports desk of the Birmingham Post. And I did that job for 17 years, and it was long hours, and it was evening shifts.
Okay, yeah.
And it's been known for years that night shifts are not healthy for you. It's becoming increasingly known now that evening shifts aren't great for you either, because they mess with your body clock.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were working 3 in the afternoon till usually around about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night.
When you put the paper
and
yeah.
I wasn't getting home from work until 1 in the morning generally. And you don't come home from work and go straight to bed.
No.
If you were doing 9 to 5, you wouldn't come home from work and go straight to bed.
No, your mind's all working, isn't it?
Because your mind's working.
Yeah.
And particularly in our job, there was a lot of adrenaline. So if the adrenaline's flowing, you're not going to be able to sleep.
It's going to.
He wasn't going to bed until.
I say it's going to take me a while to go to sleep after we've done this. From your,
I'm sure, yeah.
Adrenaline.
So I wasn't generally going to bed until 2. And my wife was a phlebotomist at Birmingham Children's Hospital at the time, and she was commuting into Birmingham and getting up at 6 in the morning. And when she was getting up, she was inevitably waking me up. And I now know that once you've been woken up, you never properly ever go back to sleep.
No. So what was it that was driving you at that time to do the amount of work that you did?
Well, it was the hours. I mean, I love the job. The job was my dream job. The problem was that it was the evening hours. And looking back at it now, the evening hours were not good for me, and I was putting the job before my life. And I was ignoring the fact that the hours weren't doing me any good because I wanted the job.
Did you actually know that at the time?
No, God, no.
No.
No, you don't. So I was probably only getting about 4 hours sleep a night. And of course, my body clock was all over the place as a result. My eating patterns were all over the place. And in about 2006, 2007, I started getting epilepsy.
Oh, right. Gosh.
Really bad epileptic fits, the kind of, fall out of bed type epileptic fits.
Mm.
And I had about 10 of these over about an 18-month period. And eventually the company paid for me to have a consultation with a professor of neurology, because this just kept going and going and they couldn't work out why. And I think from an HR perspective, they realised that if something really serious happened as a result of my hours and I sued them, they could get stung for an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
So I had an appointment with a neurology professor who told me that my lifestyle had basically come incredibly close to killing me.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Because my body clock was all out of balance. My sleeping patterns were all over the place because I wasn't getting enough sleep. I wasn't eating properly. I was eating on the run, as you do when you're working those sort of hours. Basically, I was, every single part of my body was completely out of balance.
Yeah.
So they took me off those shifts because they were told they had to, and they put me on do nothing sort of shifts for the next 12 months,
right,
and then made me redundant, which really helped.
Yes.
And then for the next 4 years, I was I set up as a freelance journalist. And I was editing a magazine and doing all the other bits that freelance journalists do, like writing press releases for people and doing website work for people and stuff like that. But of course, when you're a freelance, you work the hours you want to work, and if you want to work a day, you work a 16-hour day.
Yeah.
As someone famously said about being a freelance, you get to choose which 18 hours you work.
Yeah.
And I was doing that for about 4 or 5 years, and I was on a 1-year rolling contract editing the magazine. And at the end of 2013, they decided not to renew my 1-year rolling contract, and that was about 90% of my income.
Gosh.
And they told me in a 2-minute phone call.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and anybody who knows anything about HR knows you don't fire people in 2-minute phone calls.
No.
So I was effectively sacked as editor on the 1st of December 2013, and for the next 2 weeks I panicked basically, because that was about 90% of my income gone a month before Christmas.
Yeah.
So I was running around all over the Midlands trying to get work at networking meetings, trying to pull in favours from just about everybody, and it wasn't working.
No.
I wasn't getting anything. And then on December the 16th, 2013, I had a stroke, which I believe was completely caused by the stress of losing my contract.
Yeah.
There was no other reason for it other than the stress of losing the contract.
Yeah.
What actually happened was that an artery burst in my brain, which cut off the flow of blood to my brain.
Yeah.
And caused permanent brain damage.
Probably because your blood pressure was up and...
Oh, my blood pressure was probably through the roof.
Yeah.
I don't know, because nobody ever checked my blood pressure until after it happened.
Yeah.
Of course, when you're in hospital after it's happened, they check your blood pressure every 20 minutes.
Yes.
But by that time, it's too late.
Yeah.
And the really interesting part, well, it's all interesting, but the really devastating part of my story is that when I had the stroke, and you get absolutely no warning at all of the fact that you're about to have a stroke, it's not like a heart attack where you get chest pains or anything like that. It just happens.
Yeah.
And I was crossing a road at the time.
Oh, gosh.
And I took 2 steps into the road and just completely collapsed. My legs just gave way underneath me, because one side of me had just been completely paralysed by the the loss of blood to my brain.
Yeah.
So I was lying paralysed in the middle of the road, and there was a bus coming,
Oh.
which missed me by. Well, I always say it missed me by inches.
Yeah, I was going to say you're looking fairly normal shaped, so it probably did miss you.
Yeah, it did. It missed me by about 12 inches. And that, if it hadn't have missed me, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I would undoubtedly have been crushed.
Yeah.
But it missed me. I managed to crawl across the road with the one part of my body that was working, the one half of my body that was working.
Yeah. So we're breaking up.
And so they pulled me into a shop and called the paramedic.
Yeah.
And the paramedic came along, did all the tests, and told me that he thought I'd had a stroke.
Yeah.
At the age of 49.
Gosh.
Which was fairly devastating, because I was one of those people who, like most people, I thought that strokes only happen to 80-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I now know that they don't.
No.
A very good friend of mine was 14 when she had her stroke.
Gosh.
It's her 21st birthday on Sunday, but she had her stroke when she was 14. And I also know someone who lost their 3-year-old son to a stroke. Strokes can happen to anybody.
I've got someone who's coming on a future NLP course that was due to come on one in January, and her husband had a bleed similarly to you on Christmas Day. So, and they're farmers, and she's got a business to run. It's pretty devastating, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the short version of what happened after that is that I was completely paralysed for a fortnight down one side of my body. I was in hospital for a month. I was housebound for 8 months. I was in a wheelchair for 4 months of those 8, while I tried to relearn how to use the left side of my body.
Yeah.
And I was on it for the best part of 2 years, and I still walk with a stick occasionally. I walk with a limp permanently. I can't use my left hand to write. I was left-handed before I had the stroke. I can't use my left hand to write because my left arm is so weak. I've got severe memory loss. I get really bad fatigue.
Yeah.
I get really bad anger because my mood swings are all over the place because of the brain damage.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot you have to live with when you're a stroke survivor.
And I sort of know that you're quite a big part of the sort of business community and the networking community around where you are. So tell us a little bit about what you do now.
Well, I as I said, my epilepsy and my stroke were both really caused by work stress. And I am really passionate now about telling people about the dangers of work stress. The 16-hour, the what I call the 16-hour a day culture.
Yeah.
The 100-hour a week culture.
Yes. So
those people that think that it's cool to work 100 hours a week, and they think they're doing themselves good. Well, they're not. They're about to kill themselves.
Yeah. So, what's your message then to people in business?
Well, I did a blog for someone the other week, which was called "Knowing When to Turn That Laptop Off," and that's really my message in one sentence. It's you. There has to be a barrier between your work life and your home life.
Okay.
You just because you work from home doesn't mean you have to be writing emails at 7 o'clock in the morning, or writing emails at 11 o'clock at night, or writing articles at 7 in the morning. You have to have some kind of break.
And what would you say to someone that says to you, you know, I love my work, much the same as you were, you know, when you were an editor and working all those hours, and, you know, I love my work, I don't feel it's stressing me out. What would you say to them?
I get a lot of people like that, and there's one in particular that is a former colleague of mine, and they say that they do it because they love their job. To which my response is, well, you won't love it when it kills you.
Yeah. I guess some people, perhaps all they have is their job, but it's about expanding and choice, isn't it, I guess? You know, if you haven't got a family.
The most dangerous thing is to think that your job is the only thing in your life. It can't be.
Yeah. So it's about finding other things, even if that's the case at the time. It's about getting over that belief to, you know, to find other things and to just look after yourself, really.
It is. It's about looking after yourself, because if you don't, you could end up having a stroke, you could end up having a heart attack, you could end up killing yourself. And I talk a lot when I do my public speaking about this, I talk a lot about the life-changing event that will always happen to somebody else.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it won't. It could happen to you.
Yeah.
And it could happen to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you'll get absolutely no warning about it. Because I got absolutely no warning about it until I crossed that road and collapsed.
Yeah.
I didn't know I'd got blood pressure problems. I'm now on cholesterol tablets. I didn't know anything about the fact that I must have had high cholesterol.
Mm.
And even if you are checked regular for cholesterol, you're down once every 12 months. So you don't know what's happening in between them.
No. I had a very bizarre experience. It's sort of almost amusing that I was standing in Sainsbury's queue, and I don't know if you know, but your unconscious mind takes everything personally. So I was standing in the queue, and about 5 people behind me, someone said, if he doesn't watch out and stop working so hard, he's going to kill himself. And the next, well, that night, I had a dream, and I was in a voluntary euthanasia queue. So I was sort of moving myself forward and that was quite a wake-up call, actually, because obviously I took that personally, and it meant something to me, and in terms of the hours that I was doing. And I decided at that point, when I woke up from the dream and I got myself out of the voluntary euthanasia queue, I actually made a decision to do things differently.
Well, I have found now that an awful lot of people who know my story, who I've spoken to about it, they have made conscious decisions to change their lifestyle based on the fact that they know me. That they don't do throw-ups every morning. They live a healthier lifestyle. They do turn the computer off. They have learnt to say no. I spoke to one person a few months ago who was on the brink of basically a breakdown because he was working so hard.
Yes.
And he sought me out, and he said, you know, what do I do to get out of this? And I said, well, you've got to stop. You've got to create some sort of a barrier between your home life and your work life.
Yes.
And he said, well, what I'll do, he said, is this weekend, the emails are going off, the phone's going off, and I'm going to have some time with my family.
Yes, lovely.
And I saw him again a couple of months later, and he looked 1,000,000% better.
Ah, fab.
Brilliant. And I said, what's changed? And he said, I've learned to say no.
Yeah. And I'm thinking
people.
That
I've learned to say to people, if you come to me with an order at 3 p.m, don't expect it at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, because it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
You'll get it, but you'll get it when I can physically do it without putting my health at risk.
Yeah.
And he's actually found that he's getting more work now because people realise that he's got some sort of structure to his life, rather than running around all over the place trying to do everything and nearly killing himself.
And I guess again, from an NLP perspective, what you project is what you get back. So if you're projecting that you're in control and that you've got boundaries, then that's what you get back, and that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm thinking that there's so many reasons why people can't say no. So, some reasons off the top of my head. So, like, clients come to me because they're people pleasers, because they feel, for whatever reason, they have to please people and they can't say no. Perhaps they're perfectionists and they've got to dot every I and cross every T before something goes out. So they're spending twice as long doing what would normally take that time. Or perhaps they're even sort of worried about failing and what would people say, and what would people's perceptions be if I didn't make a success of this business. And as you say, it's all about looking after yourself in order to create a successful business, would be my view.
The worst person in the world is the one that can't delegate.
Yeah.
Business inside their head and can't give it to anybody else at all.
No.
And I spoke to someone quite recently about this. It's become something of a mantra now that your business can be worth millions and millions of pounds, but if you are your business and your business is inside your head and you are suddenly unable to work, your business is worth absolutely nothing.
No, and it's I often people talk to me about the word selfish. I don't actually mind the word selfish myself, because to me, selfish is looking after yourself. And if you look after yourself, then you're there for other people. You're there for, your clients, your customers. But you've got to look after yourself to be able to do that and have those boundaries.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. So, what would you say to people then that feel that they can't actually take care of themselves at this very moment?
Well, you can.
Yeah.
And you only have to look at me and hear my story and think about all the things that I have to deal with now every day, like the fatigue and the memory loss and the fact that I can't work at 54 and all the other stuff. That could be you.
Yeah. And I suppose it's about finding ways around it, because if you've got a business and people expect you to be there and you've got these goals which might be big and whatever, but you're not very well in yourself, it's about finding people to help support that. Like, I've got a team around me now, so doing websites and social media and just helping me generally, and I just feel like now I can, if I want to take the dogs for a walk for an hour in the middle of the day, I can actually do that. Whereas before I was running around a bit like a headless chicken. And, I certainly think that having met you and hearing your story when we talked in Tamworth has had a big effect. And I just want people to stop and really have a think about how they can make their life different and what other things they enjoy and what's their purpose, in some senses for living. And, people have got, I suppose sometimes the purpose, so like, I want to enjoy every moment of every day would be my purpose. But then sometimes I do too much because I'm helping other people, and that's what makes for my enjoyment. And it's just interesting reflecting on all of that. And, where do your family and your leisure and things come into the equation? How are your values sorted out, really?
Well, I now have no choice other than to try to enjoy every day.
Yeah.
Because statistically, having had a stroke, there is statistically a 30% chance I'll have another one.
Yeah.
And the next one might kill me.
Yeah.
So I might as well try and enjoy what I've got.
Yeah.
That can be scary at times.
Yeah.
And I do say, when I talk about this at networking meetings, I do say that I scare people. But the only way you will make people think about this is scaring them.
Yeah. And
it's like having a health insurance, and it's like having a health insurance and making wills. People don't want to think about it.
No. We all know someone who's probably in this group as well, Fidel, who's got the message, hasn't he? We are all going to die, and we might as well live as long as we can and enjoy ourselves as much as we can while we're here. And
because you just we are all going to die. I might die quicker than most, and you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're like me. The most, I've said it before already, the life-changing event that will always happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, it won't. It could happen to you.
I know when we last met and you were talking, there was a lot of words about sort of fighting and things in your language. And I remember saying to you, it's about enjoying rather than fighting, because fighting creates conflict in your brain, and, just enjoying is fab, isn't it?
Well, it is. My website is called askthewarrior.com.
Yeah.
And I've become known as the warrior. I would argue that there are probably more people now that know me as the warrior than
an enjoyer.
Know me as my real name. To get to this stage, I mean, we haven't even talked about the fact that I was born with spina bifida and hydrocephalus yet.
Okay.
And when you add all that in on top of the epilepsy and the stroke and nearly getting hit by the bus, I think that warrior thing. It does perhaps project an image of fighting stuff rather than enjoying it, but I think I deserve it.
Yeah. I think it's really keen to be sort of congruent with everything that you do, isn't it? And if there is, it's almost like you're striving to tell everyone to wake up, give them a wake up call, really, isn't it, rather than yourself, because that's your purpose, really, to make sure everyone else is okay now as well as yourself. Is that right?
My purpose now is you don't want to end up like me. And if I can stop one person having to go through all the stuff I'm going through and I've been through, then I feel like I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to finish up, what would be your top 3 tips? Or actually, I want to ask you a different question, actually. So how do you think, because I'm interested in, how when people start to know that they're overdoing it, do you think that people have, that sort of time in their life where they go, oh, actually, this isn't right?
I think people do get a sense of that at times, and you're very lucky if you do get a sense of that, because I didn't. Looking back, there were signs. Looking back, there were red flags all over the place.
Yeah.
But I didn't see them, and it's very easy not to see them. Yeah. It's very easy to ignore them. But the people that I've had that have come to me that have said, I am doing too much, well, good on them for being able to acknowledge it and do something about it.
Exactly. So what would be your top 3 tips for people who perhaps have started to think, maybe I'm doing too much?
Delegate at work.
Yeah.
Don't have it all inside your head. Get people around you. Make sure that you've got a proper barrier between your work life and your home life. And rest properly. And find something to do with your life outside work.
Yeah. Just writing all this down. I think that's probably about 7. That's good.
Because I know, we talked about it earlier, people whose sole purpose in life is to work. That's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just writing all this down so that I can put it in a post. So delegate, make sure it's not all inside your head. Get a barrier between your work and your home life. Have some great people around you. find something to do outside, and I suppose say no, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it's learned to say no to people as well.
Mm.
It's not, it's don't be a people pleaser, to use a bit of a cliche.
Yeah.
You have to be able to say to people no, like the guy I was talking about earlier, who has learned to say to people, don't come to me with an order at 3 PM and expect it the following morning,
Yeah.
because you ain't going to get it.
Yeah.
Whereas previously he would do it for them if they paid him a bit more money.
Yeah.
Well, that's just silly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's been brilliant talking to you. I know the signal's not been brilliant all the way through, but kept losing you for a little while, and you probably lost me, but great to talk to you. I'm certainly going to do a lot more thinking, which I've already started, because this is my year for self-care. Well, it's going to be my life for self-care, really. So thank you very much, and I'll pop a link to this in the Facebook group so that people can actually see and hear what you've got to say and start to reflect and get that mindset for looking after yourself as well.
Good. All right then, Bridget, thank you ever so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care. See you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Take care. Bye.